Hello, everyone, and welcome to Positive Leadership Podcast. My guest today is one of Japan's most prominent visionary entrepreneurs, as well as an educator and business leader. He's best known as the founder and president of Japan's leading graduate school of management, but he's also the founder of a major venture capital firm that has played a key role in supporting the growth of many successful startups in Japan, promoting venture capitalism in a country that used to be traditionally more focused on large established corporations. In addition to his work in business education, my guest is a strong advocate for leadership development, social responsibility, and global collaboration. He is very active in various organizations and frequently speaks on topics related to business ethics, sustainability, and the importance of creating innovative ecosystems in Japan and beyond. A very warm welcome, Yoshito Hori. Hori-san, it's really an honor to welcome you today in Positive Leadership Podcast.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Hori-san, I like to start my episodes often with my guests by exploring the early stage of their lives. And because I think childhood and family, of course, influences all of us, and have a significant impact on our lives and values. I understand you were born in Mito and grew up in a traditional Japanese environment. I think your father was a nuclear scientist and your granddad a political leader. Could you tell us more about your childhood and how the values instilled by your family may have shaped you both professionally but also personally?
Okay. I was born and raised, as you mentioned, in a city of Mito, Ibaraki Prefecture, which is about 100 kilometers northeast of Tokyo. My father is a nuclear scientist, and therefore our family has lived 1 year in Long Island, New York when I was 3, and I lived in Michigan for 2 years when I was 5 and 6. And then at the same time, my father's father, which is grandfather, was also a scientist. And he was a professor of a university, and he studied at Cambridge University in UK just after World War One. And then that time he has written kind of like essay titled "My Personal Mission Statement."
Wow.
And that has inspired me to think about what is my personal mission is when I am at youth. So you can imagine that I have been brought up in a very global family with a very intellectual mindset. And that's why I went to 1 year in Sydney, Australia when I was in high school. So that's where I've learned my English. And I went to Harvard after I graduated from Kyoto University and start working for Sumitomo Corporation to get my MBA.
Yes. So it seems to me, Hori-san, just listening to you that, well, contrary, I guess, to many of your peers at the time when you were a child, you're already traveling the world with your family, which is, I think, quite unusual, but you can confirm with children in Japan, at least many years back. And number two, getting your grandfather writing a book on personal mission must have been something very unique in Japan at the time as well, isn't it? So tell me more about the way it resonated with you as a child and with your dad, mom, and the rest of the family. What did it mean for you as a child, actually?
Well, as a child, I didn't know that I was a little bit different from other families because you are brought up in a family and you cannot compare with other families.
Sure.
But at the same time, I always think about studying abroad. And I always think about improving my intellectual ability. At the same time, I've been thinking about what I should do, what should be my personal mission statement. And that I've been exploring when I was in high school and also in university, and even after I started working for Sumitomo Corporation. So I was always looking for and pursuing my personal mission statement. And that was my childhood. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was exploring about what to be done.
Well, we'll certainly come back later on during this episode, Hori-san, on the work you've done, which I think is quite remarkable on helping people shaping their personal mission, what it means in your personal life for everyone. So let's go back in a way a bit about your youth as well. You did an MBA in Harvard Business School, of course, a fantastic business school in the US. And as you know, at least there's a common view that Japan's business culture is quite hierarchical and risk adverse, while in the US, there's clearly a kind of a more risk-taking, innovation-driven environment. And I'm sure you've been able to relate to that again early on in your childhood and during your studies. And indeed, through your career, we can see a balance between a more traditional Japanese culture and a forward-thinking entrepreneurial mindset. So did you actually experience kind of a cultural shock as a child or as a teenager or later on, as you are standing between Japan and the US cultures together?
Well, except for 1 year in Sydney, in high school, I have all my education in Japan. And it was mostly focused on lecture method. And then you have to sit on the exams and come up with the right answer. And then it was mostly written exams. And then testing about my memory and coming up using formula to come up with the right answers. And however, at Harvard, I was so surprised that to be listening from the professor that there's no right answer. So professor said there's no right answer, and you have to use your brain to be able to find the optimum, the best available answer for you, and at the same time through discussions using case method. And I was quite surprised about the way of the learning. It's so much different from what I've been exposed to in my life. So that's number one. So number one, the culture shock is more about the learning method of Harvard or US versus Japan. Second is it's more about I've learned management at business school.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, Japanese corporation is mostly hierarchical, and also they're quite strong in capital-intensive business. It was a time of the bubble. I went into Harvard in 1989, and at that time, Sony bought Columbia Pictures, and also Mitsubishi bought Rockefeller Center, and Japan was number one. However, Japan was only strong in capital-intensive business, like Sony, Toyota, Honda, and Nippon Steel. And the US has shifted away from capital-intensive business more to knowledge-intensive, more entrepreneurial, and it's more flat organization and knowledge-based, and it's more nimble. And then that, again, is also a culture shock. So now I got exposed to a new learning method, and at the same time got exposed to new industrial revolution coming up and more in entrepreneurial, knowledge-based, technology-based companies.
So both a combination of learning, but also business models evolving, economic models evolving across the world between the US and Japan coming together. So did this contrast we just talked about immediately stand out to you? I mean, was it like obvious to you that you had to do something about it and maybe try to bring back home some of the American business culture, learning methodology, and combine that in a unique way in a new approach in Japan? So when and how did that happen?
Well, I had all my education in Japan, and I worked for Sumitomo Corporation, which is more hierarchical. And I mentioned I was exploring about what my personal mission is, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So at the MBA, it's so tough to graduate because 1/4 of Japanese students who entered got kicked out because of the low ratings or low results or lack of English ability. And so I studied so hard during my time at Harvard MBA. And then that, has given me some idea about what I wanted to do. Like, after you finish your study, on Friday afternoon, you go out for a drink with your classmates. And then we talked about what the dreams are. Simply because most of us, like global students who gather MBA, and they're, I think they're one of the best and brightest. And they spent 2 years at Harvard, And for me, I got corporate scholarship to get my MBA, but most of my classmates pay their own tuition and they pay on livings and they take 2 years off. So that's hard, that's big investment for them. And I
Yes.
asked them what they want to do. What do you want to do? Why do you have to come here?
Yeah.
And their answer is always, I have a dream. Now I have something to do. And the top of the dream of most of
Yeah.
my classmates are starting their own companies. So
Oh, entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs. Yeah.
entrepreneurial idea came up to me. What is entrepreneurship? Why do you want to start a company? And then I started to study mostly about entrepreneurial courses in my second year for my lit
Mm.
courses. And then I started to realize that I may have some capabilities as an entrepreneur, even though I have
Yeah.
not started, simply because after you do lots of cases, I tend
Yes.
to think about the same way as the successful entrepreneurs, So I think,
Right.
oh man, maybe I may be able to do something from scratch. But I saw the reality that I'm not doing anything at all. So I
Yeah.
started to think about what is the difference between those people who have started and those people who have not started. And one of the seminar that I went, one of the entrepreneur came. He told me about something which clicked a lot into my brain. Is
Yes.
that he told me that people tend to put their own ceiling by themselves
Yes.
from the mindset.
They limit themselves. They limit
Yeah,
themselves.
limit
Yeah. Yeah.
themselves,
Yeah.
And then even though he or she may have a potential, which is exponential potential, however, you tend to limit yourselves.
Yes.
And what you have to do is to unlimit yourself and think the sky is the limit. Even the sky is not a limit,
There's no limit.
no limit.
Yes.
And I started thinking about this kind of thinking. Believing potential is so much important. And from that moment, I started to think, let's start thinking the way, let's start believing my potential. And let's not listen to any other advices, or let's not think about like a worse external environment which may happen.
Yes.
If you believe in potential, anything could
In
happen.
yourself.
So I
Yeah.
started to believe that believing my potential becoming like my motto. And then I started to think about lots of ideas about businesses. And then I started to think that I want to become an entrepreneur, believing in my potential.
Yes.
Anything could be possible. And then the idea came up to me that like MBA, education MBA is so good. Well, like I've developed my skills as an entrepreneur, making decision,
Yeah.
knowing about management knowledge, and also being able to communicate well. And at the same time, I have made lots of human network, my friends. And at the same time, I came up to my personal mission. Oh, wow, this is a good education process. So
Yeah.
I thought I should bring that educational back to Japan and start a new business school from scratch. And nobody ever thought about starting a business school from scratch. I was 29 when I graduated from
Very
Harvard.
bold. Very bold.
Yeah, but I came up to the motto and belief that believing potential. I had to believe
Is the
in my
key.
potential, and then therefore, and
Yeah.
that's has changed my mind that maybe an idea to start up a business school from scratch,
Yeah.
and that could be possible. And let's believe in my potential. That was the thing that came up to my mind when I was studying at MBA.
No, that's a huge insight, and I think a wonderful revelation. I'd like to go back a little bit more, if you don't mind, Arisan, on this
Sure.
unique blend you have had. I think you've developed yourself in between the U.S. and Japanese culture. I don't know if you know about this book and work done by someone called Erin Meyer, which I've been reading a few times. She wrote a book called A Cultural Map, The Cultural Map, Breaking Through the Invisible Boundaries of Global Business. In this
Okay.
work, she presents a framework to understand how different cultures approach business and communication. And she emphasized the understanding of the big differences between two distinct cultures and how critical it is in globalization. And I must say that I can relate to it myself, at least in a humble way, having visiting Japan for Microsoft for 20 years of my life with our wonderful team in Japan, and really trying hard to get the voice of my team in Japan heard back in Redmond in the US. And I realized when you're in Japan, more and more year after year, because I think it takes time, you appreciate that it's a high context, as Erin Meyer said, an implicit culture where reading between the lines and interpreting nonverbal cues is a norm, is a way of behaving, as opposed to the very low context American culture, where communication is very direct, very straightforward. And as a result, I think you need between those two cultures to be very cautious, as you can get lost in translation in a way beyond the language itself. So I like you to develop that a bit more, because I think you've been a unique way to reconcile those cultures, in a way take the best of both in your education system. Is that the case?
Well, if you are in Japan, as you mentioned, which is a very high context and at the same time very implicit culture,
Yeah.
you have to observe, and you have to be reserved to yourself, and you shouldn't speak up so much. You should try to read the lines of people, and you should not stand out. And you have to follow the Japanese rule and also Japanese ways of culture. That's number one. If you are let's say in the U.S. culture, it's totally different. It's more explicit and also it's more low context. So you have to speak up.
Yeah.
So I find myself having two different, character. One being Japanese, like you have to be reserved, you have to be mindful of other people's, and you have to be polite. And if you are in the US or non-Japanese context, you have to be more bold, you have to be more outspoken, you have to be more aggressive, you have to be more explicit, you have to have your words be heard. And so you have to change, I have to change my mindset like quick. If you are speaking Japanese, I totally change my character. And if I speak in English, I can change my character. And so that's, I was able to develop. Otherwise, it's so difficult to speak up in classes, to speak up in
For sure.
Congress or any kind of like seminars. But you have to develop, you have to push yourself hard, and you have to energize yourself. And in the that kind of explicit culture.
So you become a real chameleon yourself, right? Adjusting to different people, different culture.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's if you bring your explicit character into Japanese context, you'll fail.
You fail.
I don't like this guy. So you have to develop. You have to have a more breadth of your character to be able to have more explicit, at the same time implicit, and at the same time more about to be able to live in high context and also low context culture.
And this is something you've been able to also reflect into your curriculum, your ways of driving education at GLOBIS, in terms of mixing actually international cultures beyond just Japanese and US culture, right?
We have a course called cross-cultural management. And cross-cultural management is the way that you bridge the different culture.
Yes.
And cross-cultural management says that you always have to be mindful about the culture of the places you are in. And at the same time, you have to be able to understand the differences and not enforce your value to other people. And at the same time, try to understand the differences by going deeper into the reasons of the differences, and then bridge rapport by understanding the differences. And that's, you have to do. You mentioned about Japan and the US, but it's France and also Thailand and China. Everything is different. So as long as you are mindful about the cross-cultural differences, and then if you know how to bridge the differences and then respect the differences, and then being able to have the cross-cultural management capabilities, I think you can talk to anybody in different cultures.
Yeah. No, it's actually wonderful that you have such a course in your curriculum, because I think it's pretty rare, by the way. I know many universities, business school globally, and many executives actually 10, 20 years in their careers who are, basically landing an international job with no understanding at all of the need to observe, to learn that cross-communication culture, because otherwise you never get the job done, actually.
The Japanese companies have failed so many times after acquisition, or like foreign companies abroad, or to expand into different markets, or to build a factory, let's say in Southeast Asia, and they fail, like managers fail so many times. So they are mindful about the understanding of differences in culture, and they have to educate their leaders and also employees to be able to bridge and understand differences over the culture.
Yes. I'd like to go back, Arisan, to the time where you work in a very large established corporation in Japan, Sumitomo. What did you learn there that you liked, and what did you see there that you didn't like that much, so that you decided to, well, to actually create your own business and your company with Globis?
Well, what I have learned is how to survive and deal well in Japanese context. Like it's a very hierarchical, it's a very seniority based, and it's very rigid organization where you have to wear ties and suits, and also you have to, when you exchange name cards, you have to be polite, and you learn where to sit and how to respect the seniors, and you learn about all the way to do business in Japan. That's one thing I've learned. Sumitomo Corporation is one of the largest trading firms. Therefore, we understand about different aspects of industries,
Mm.
and it's a very global entity. And therefore, I've learned a lot about business. Like I was in charge of plant export, like a petrochemical plants, multi-billion
Mm.
dollar plants, in a full turnkey basis, like build and also construct and deliver, and using project financing in international consortium. So I've learned a lot about how to do businesses and also how to make contracts and how to form a leadership among different companies. And that's what I've learned. The area that I didn't like that much is like I didn't like seniority and
Mm.
system. I didn't like the hierarchical
Mm.
system. I didn't like the rules, and but I had to obey. And things that I didn't like, I decided not to bring that into my company that I established, Globis.
No, very, very clear. So now back to Globis. That I think you created Globis in 1992, the Globis Management School, as a very small private venture. Actually, I think you started in your own apartment, not in a garage, but in your place, and you are teaching yourself to some students, just a few students, with the goal of providing an affordable, high quality business education for future leaders. And of course, the entrepreneurial story is quite amazing and really reflects, I think, this your entrepreneurship mindset, which I can feel from the beginning of this episode. Starting small, but with an ambitious goal and a clear sense of purpose. So, can you tell us more about those early days where you had little money, a few
Mm.
students, probably a
Okay.
few teachers as well, just
Mm.
yourself to get started?
Well, when I graduated, from Harvard MBA, and then 1 year afterward, little than 1 year afterward, at the age of 29, I started a small business school called GLOBIS.
Hmm.
GLOBIS stands for Global Business, and I combined it to make it
Okay.
GLOBIS. And instead of U, I changed to I, so it's a global business, GLOBIS. And with only $8,000 initial capital, I
Hmm.
was alone. I used my apartment, which is close to Shibuya, and
Yeah.
I rented out a classroom in downtown Shibuya
Hmm.
for $200 for 3 hours. It's a small classroom. And then I sent out direct mails to potential students.
Yes.
And that time there was no internet. So it was 1991, 1992 I started. So there was no internet, and 20 students came. And that was how it started. And when I quit Sumitomo, people thought I was crazy. I went to Kyoto University, I went to
Of
Harvard
course.
MBA, and worked for Sumitomo Corporation, and starting a business school, which is nowhere. And I didn't have any cash, and I didn't have any credential, I didn't have
Yeah.
network, but I just have a strong vision and personal mission that I want to do it. And so that's a very humble beginning with a very
Hmm.
small, humble startup.
And were your parents supporting of that as well, or were they also very afraid of you moving away from a large company, a large business?
Well, like my parents thought I was always crazy. So my craziness didn't just started, at
Okay.
the Globis. Before that, my parents knew about myself, and but I'm very different, like unique kind of person, and I didn't want to
Yes,
follow suit with other people. I just want to be different, unique, and my parents didn't oppose my idea, and
that's
they
great.
didn't support too much,
Yes.
but they,
Yes.
they lent me some money,
Yes.
which in the beginning, which I pay back later on. But that way, I think they have supported me.
Yeah. So in 1996, you co-founded GLOBIS Capital Partners, a venture capital firm that provided funding and support for Japanese startups,
Mm.
making GLOBIS one of the first institutions in Japan at the time again to actually back up entrepreneurial ventures. So was this part of your initial plan at the very beginning when you thought about creating GLOBIS? Or did you
Okay.
later realize as you are teaching students and future entrepreneurs that actually was not enough to educate them, but you also need to support them all the way through funding, coaching, creating a ecosystem of support so that it could actually take off with success?
Okay. Well, I mentioned about knowledge-intensive business in the US and capital-intensive business in Japan. I thought that Japan has to shift from capital-intensive to knowledge-intensive business.
Yep.
That time, like Apple started, Microsoft started, and as you know, later on, like Google, Facebook, and also
Yep.
Amazon, Tesla, and all those companies started. And then in order to create knowledge-intensive business, you need to have infrastructure, like an ecosystem. On which one is a business school, I thought we need to have educate leaders. And I
Right.
thought we should create a venture capital. So capital intensive business, most of the infrastructure is banks, which lend so much money. But
Yep.
in knowledge intensive business, it's more equity investing to risk
Right.
capital into startups. And I thought knowledge as well, you need to have knowledge, because knowledge intensive. So I drew 3 circles in front of Baker Library, overlooking Charles River in Harvard Business School campus on the lawn. I drew 3 circles. One is people, one is
Yep.
capital, and one is
Yep.
knowledge for creation and innovation. I thought that Japan needs it. And therefore, I started business school from scratch in 1992. And I
Yep.
started venture capital in 1996. And I always believe in lean startup. I always start small. In case of
Yep.
business school, it's 20 students, which is not accredited at that time.
Yes.
And the venture capital, I raised about $5 million from 4 angel investors and 1 institutional investor. That was how it started. But the aim is to educate leaders as well as create new industries, and then for creating ecosystem for creation and innovation of Japan.
Yes. If we do just a fast forward on just this particular piece of your business organization, or your venture fund, how much would you say that your initial vision again of the fund has changed 20 years later, given again the way the economy has changed globally, in Japan as well, the way we think about VCs funding, early stage or advanced stages, given also the incredible growth of private equities as well in the economy. How much did that change today?
Well, when I started in 1996, I was lucky enough to have a joint venture with a company called APAX. APAX in Europe, and as
Yes.
well as APAX, is stand for Alan Patrikoff Associates Cross Border. So it
Right.
was Patrikoff in the US. We had a joint venture in 1999, and the joint venture existed until 2006. And APAX became more a private equity firm, and we decided to stay on venture capital side.
Yeah.
So we became separate in 2006. So we got exposed to global entrepreneur movement. We have the industry knowledge. We were able to get access to global investors as well. And then, so we were able to grow from $5 million to now we have altogether over $2 billion under management. So we are able to grow ourselves through the knowledge that we have learned from, and also know-how and learn and system that we have learned from APAX,
Yes.
and which is applying to venture capital. And even though the entrepreneurship has become global, we have joint ventures, so we are very global mindset. And even though they have become bigger, we have been able to become bigger. And we teach management, so we are good in management. And so with hands-on approach. And we were kind of the first venture capital in Japan as a hands-on investor. Therefore, we have a very good position as well. So, since 1996, it's been 20 years since I started venture capital. We have become the center in the position of ecosystem of Japan's creation and innovation.
And what is the thing that you're the most proud of on this particular side again of your business on the venture fund? When you reflect on the last 28 years on what you've achieved and the transformation may have actually triggered in Japan.
Well, most of the startups which have become successful are invested by us. So we have created new
Yeah.
industries, and they have become multi-billion-dollar companies, and they are cutting edge in technology, and they are trying to become global companies as well.
Yeah.
And so it's like creating new, industries
New
by
industries.
having good ecosystem. And that's what I'm proud of about. All the startups that we have invested are like our children, we have started
Yes.
and we foster them. And then from incubation until the, exit, IPO and so forth. And we have invested more than 200, 300 companies,
Hmm.
and more than 60 companies went public. And
Wow.
we have returned a lot into our LPs, like
Yep.
investors.
Yep.
So we have been successful in that sense in venture capital. So, like a venture capital in the US is like Sequoia. In
Yep.
Europe, maybe Index or other companies. So we have become the center of venture capital in Japan, which I'm so proud of.
Yeah, so congratulations. That I like to come back again to the education world, and I think particularly at the time where you got the accreditation, becoming university accredited in Japan, I think 2006. How did you feel about achieving this milestone? Because as you told us before, you didn't have any accreditation when you started. You are starting from nowhere, nothing. How did you become respected in a
Mm.
very, I would say, very well defined education system in Japan? The same happens in Europe as well. I'm
Mm.
also happen to be also the chairman of a business school in France called
Mm.
Schema, which is global, and I know that it takes a lot of work and hard work and years to get all those accreditations locally and globally. So, what did it feel, and what did it take to get there?
Well, 1992, when I started small school with only
Yeah.
20 students in marketing course. And then until 2006, we have 2002, we started our own privately, myself, like a GLOBIS accredited, what we call graduate diploma in
Okay.
business administration, which is not accredited by the government.
I
And we
got you.
accredit
Okay.
ourselves. The reason is that I've studied the business model of INSEAD. I
Hmm.
heard that INSEAD is not accredited by any governmental bodies in
You're
France.
right.
And therefore, we thought that we should have the society should accredit, not the government should accredit. Therefore, we have started self-accredited business school. We didn't
Hmm.
call it MBA because we are not allowed to use master, but we call it
Yes.
GDB, Graduate Diploma in Business Administration.
Yes.
But 2006, that time there was a Koizumi regime, which is a very reform-minded government. And they
Hmm.
came up with the idea that even for-profit entity can become a university, which
Wow.
was quite rare. And they call it special district, like only for a short
Yes.
period. They
Yes.
allowed. And we applied to get accredited. So 2006, we got university status.
Hmm.
So we are able to issue MBA from the Japanese government.
Yeah.
And 2008, we are the first and the last that has converted from for-profit to not-for-profit business school. So
Okay.
2008, we have become almost identical to other private universities in Japan. It's almost the same as Harvard, Stanford,
Very
okay,
interesting.
the same, accreditation
Yes.
and also the same body, like a same shell company,
Yeah.
same
Yes.
foundation model.
Yeah.
And so not-for-profit means there's no ownership, so we have
Right.
converted to not-for, and we decided not to make money, but we have decided to contribute greatly to societies. So that has made us kind of like a
Hmm.
credential from the society that
Yes.
we are the government accredited institution. So 2006, when we started, we had only about 60 students for
Hmm.
MBA. Now we have more than 1,000 students enrolled
Wow.
per year.
Wow. Wow.
So we have grown more than 20 times in 20 years or so, 18 years. And so we have grown rapidly, not only Tokyo, Osaka, but we have 5 campuses in Japan and 6
Right.
campuses overseas. We have English and Japanese MBA. We have online MBA as well and part-time MBA. And so we are able to grow because of that in a moment.
No, it's really outstanding. I mean, to hear by the way you funded the school, you created your own accreditation, then you morphed into the system itself, and being now the top-notch, obviously business education school in Japan and beyond. You said you've been expanding not just in Japan, but actually in other countries as well. I know that you've been also obviously using and immersing your students into a lot more of a technology. I was listening to some of your former podcasts a few years back at the beginning, talking about online starting and then hybrid. And now we are in the AI era, as you know well, going across the world. So tell me more about your own personal vision about the way AI is today or is going to be changing the way you teach, you learn at GLOBIS Management School.
Okay. Let me talk about 2 things before I talk about AI.
Yeah.
One is that the word technovate. It's a technology innovate. We combine.
Yes.
Technovate.
Yeah.
We came up with the concept of technovate simply because we run venture capital firm. And the new business models are starting up because of technology. Therefore, management method has changed. Marketing has changed. So everything has changed.
Yeah.
So we need to have a new MBA. But new MBA, they called maybe 100 years ago, and 100 years from now, they might say new MBA. So there's no identity. So we had to come up with identity. Therefore, we came up with the word technovate. Let's brand ourselves as a technovate MBA, which is totally using technology and methodology to advance students to get up to date about usage of technology in businesses. So that's number one, technovate. Second of all is that we have a kind of universal mindset that we have a campus in Tokyo, Osaka, and we start in Nagoya, Sendai, Fukuoka. The reason is that there has been strong needs from those regions and that they want to study. And we feel that it's fair to provide education to everybody. And therefore, we try to expand our campuses. However, we realize that there are students coming from abroad as well, and from far away as well. And I thought it was unfair that we are not providing good education to them. Then we started distance learning program using case method. And we were always trying to use technology to provide education to other people who live outside of our campuses. And then, so we tried so many times on broadband, but it was not useful. And we tried sometimes on software, which was not useful. But 2015, we started online MBA using technology. That time, it was we converted to like Zoom later on usage, and broadband was available. So we started online MBA in 2015, 2016. So we focused a lot on using technology. And we also have started what we call GLOBIS Unlimited, which is like the concept is quite simple. Music has become Spotify. Movies are becoming Netflix. What about the books? Books going to become ebooks? But ebooks for me is not really exciting. Internet is much richer. And therefore, we started to come up with subscription of unlimited learning. What we call GLOBIS Unlimited. So using slideshow and also animation and then small video clips. It's like a micro learning, like 5 minutes videos. And unlimited. If you buy books, it will cost about, let's say, like a $20 to $50. But 1 month, $20. It's unlimited learning. And we
everything
started
you can consume. Yeah,
that's right. And then we decided not to use any more textbooks. We use those GLOBIS Unlimited for their preparation, students' preparation. We both provide in Japanese and English. We have more than 1 million users on GLOBIS Unlimited. So in the future, which I'm thinking is going to happen is that by venture capital, running a venture capital, I realized that technology changes champion. This in case of before it was Sears, now it's Amazon, all the department stores, supermarkets are changing to Amazon or Rakuten or wherever you are.
Yep.
And then, TVs are becoming Netflix or YouTube, and cars are also changing. Maybe Tesla, Toyota may be changing to
EVs, etc. Yep.
Tesla, so BYD as well. And then all the companies are, because of technology, the champions are being changed. And the champions come from nowhere. They're startups. Even AI, it's OpenAI. It's not Google. So I thought that education will be changed because of technology, and they will come from nowhere. Nowhere means we have chances. So like Harvard and Stanford, maybe the champion before the technology. And after the technology, new champion will come up. We thought it's going to be GLOBIS. So we have decided, our initial vision is to become #1 business school in Asia. And now that we have become so sizable, that we are not even Japan's #1, we are #1 in Asia in terms of business school size. And we have more than students from 50 different countries coming in. And we changed our goal to become #1 business school in the world.
Globally, right?
Globally, #1. It will be totally different business school. And then the key is #1 AI. The key is internet. And key is mobile phones. So all the technology. And still other business schools are using campuses to teach in person. And they have to convene into one place. In case of Harvard, it's Cambridge, Boston, Massachusetts. And then in case of GLOBIS, we are using technology. And then for the future, we believe AI will change the way we deliver education. And AI will change the way students will learn as well. And then therefore, we have invested heavily in AI. We have an institution called GLOBIS AI Management Education Research Institute. We call it GAIMERI. We have 2 patents of AI in business school. Never heard of any business schools having patents of AI.
It's pretty rare, yes.
So we are using ChatGPT, and also we are using our own AI as well, and incorporate that into our educational process. And then
so this is going on as we talk, right? Already, your students can use some of the chat box, your own LLMs to educate and learn.
They get feedback from AI, and then they will be evaluated by AI in terms of their reports and essays. And also, but at this moment, we are only, if you allow students to use AI for their, like critical thinking, it's going to be difficult for them to develop the thinking ability. So in some courses, we'll limit the usage of AI for students, but for a delivery of education, we are using everything as possible to educate our students to become better and better. And so AI, I believe, is going to be a key to success and change. That will be kind of like technology to change the champion from maybe Harvard to GLOBIS.
So this is the big bet you're making with GLOBIS. And obviously you don't feel worried about a new startup coming and disrupting your business as well in Japan and globally with AI and education, because that could happen as well.
Well, like we are giving students an option. Like we are giving them to study in-person MBA in Tokyo as well, and online as well, and maybe AI in the future. And it's good to have an option. And there's such word as cannibalization in businesses. But if you are afraid about cannibalization, you're not able to disrupt your own businesses. You have to disrupt your own businesses. And they're not afraid about cannibalization. And they come up with a new idea, disrupting your own old businesses by providing option for students to learn, and then provide more universal education to anybody, anywhere, anytime.
So really looking forward to that major disruption in your own business brought by yourself, Hori-san, in the coming years. I'd like to shift to basically shift a bit our discussion and come back to the core foundational principles of GLOBIS, and particularly coming back as well to the personal mission. I think it's just critical in your education system. I was listening again to some of the principles you called out in some previous podcasts and interviews, and you are talking about the fact that entrepreneurship is obviously critical, but also faculty members have to be practitioners. And another principle that also truly struck with me is the service guarantee. I don't know if you keep doing it, which is if students are not happy, they decide to leave, you refund them, which is pretty bold as well. Unknown in most I think all business school actually never refund anything if you are not happy. But what I found truly unique, even more so, is, and forgive me for my really bad Japanese pronunciation, so you should tell me exactly how to pronounce that. Kokorozachi, which represents, I think, the purpose that transcends profit, individual success, and is a profound commitment to contributing to society at whole and having a positive impact in the world. So this is a core principle. And this also reminds me of another Japanese concept well known globally called the ikigai, which is, again, a deeper purpose that we have in ourselves that gives us a real meaning day by day in our life. So can you tell us, Hori-san, can you educate us first on what is really kokorozashi and how it's different or not from the ikigai?
Okay. Ikigai is more about the present state of your mind.
Today.
By doing something that you love, by doing something you enjoy, you feel ikigai, you feel happy, you feel that enlightenment. But it's more, it doesn't have the direction of where you want to go.
Okay.
So ikigai is mostly for present, what you want to do.
Yes.
Kokorozashi is more vision-oriented, future-oriented, what you want to do in the future, and what is the purpose, the whole life of, we call personal mission statement, personal mission for whole life. And then your resolve. And it's more like pursuing what you want to do in the future, for the future, by using your energy, by using your lives as well. So ikigai is more about understanding about yourself, what you enjoy, what you like. But kokorozashi is understanding about your lives, why you're born, and how you want to use your lives for, and what your lives mean for you, and the purpose of your lives. And if you find what you want to do, kokorozashi, in your lives, tremendous energy will come up from within, simply because you want to achieve this. If you believe that this is why you were born for, you know about what you want to do. And I said in the early podcast that I mentioned about my personal mission statement. I'm looking for what I want to do for my life. And my grandpa mentioned about his personal mission. And I was looking for my personal mission, which is more like kokorozashi. And I found it. Like I said, people, capital, knowledge, and for creation, innovation of societies, starting a business school and venture capital to become number one in Japan and also Asia and the world. And that's my kokorozashi. And for the purposes of creating values and creating growth and creating innovation for the human beings. And that's kokorozashi. So kokorozashi is something that you always pursue. Normally, you don't know about what you want to do. But in the future, if you pursue, you may be able to find out. So kokorozashi is one of our three principles of GLOBIS that all our students have to pursue his or her kokorozashi and has to present his or her kokorozashi at the time of the class performing. And then simply because in businesses, it's not just making decision. It's not just making money. It's more about creating value for societies and then contributing to societies as a whole. At the same time, you need to have a passion to be able to convey to other people, to energize, to motivate. But the passion will come not from just making money, but more from knowing about your mission, knowing about your purposes. And by knowing it, you have a stronger passion to penetrate into, students or constituent or employees or other stakeholders as well.
No, I think that's very powerful. I mean, I'll come back to that in a couple of minutes because I do strongly believe actually shaping your personal mission. I think it's so critical for everyone, whatever age you have actually in your life. It's still something very relevant. Actually, I'd like to ask you, what was your grandfather's personal mission? If you can share, given the book he wrote.
Well, he wrote that his mission is to be a pure scientist
Okay.
and pursuing the truth
Hmm.
through research and scientific activities.
Okay.
And he didn't want to become a politician. He didn't want to become a business person. And he
Hmm.
said he wanted to become a pure scientist to be able to discover the truth and also new a reality which
Yeah.
had not been uh, uh, discovered or invented. So that's what
Yes.
he had said. So he wanted to live, and he lived life as a scientist. And I was looking for what I wanted to do, and I entered Faculty of Engineering, but I
Hmm.
didn't particularly like that, you know.
Okay.
And I worked for Sumitomo Corporation, but I didn't
Hmm.
particularly enjoy. I liked it.
Yes.
I didn't know that was something that I wanted to do. And my mother's father was a politician, like a local politician.
Okay.
I even thought about becoming a politician as well, for which I didn't think that fit to me. And I found out that entrepreneur and creating value through people capital knowledge for ecosystem for creation innovation. That's what I wanted to start a business school,
Yes.
and which will exceed Harvard in the future,
Yes.
and also venture capital to create new industries. That's what I want to do. So therefore, the ecosystem of creation innovation will be happening in Japan.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing to hear you, Orisa, and talking about as well the different missions of your family members, right? I mean, your dad, your grandfather, or grandmother, and the fact that each one of you had the ability to pick your own personal missions in your life. So I think there's something in the family that is quite remarkable. In a way, you've defined your own paths, which are
Yeah.
very distinct and very different. But I'd like to go back to, I think, something which is very important with this foundation of Kokozashi, and the way you also, I think, incorporating into your curriculum, not just business, of course, management course, but also the way you can create as an entrepreneur social impact, a societal impact. And I think that also across your venture fund somehow, but also in the curriculum, we are as well trying to inspire entrepreneurs to think beyond just making money in terms of the impact they can have in society. So is it something essential to you, natural to link in a way the business sustainability with social, environmental responsibility, and somehow philanthropy as well? I know that you
Mm.
have led a number of initiatives such as the Kibo Foundation. Can you tell us more about the way you think about those worlds separately or
Mm.
coming together?
Well, when I came up to my personal mission, which is creating people capital knowledge, ecosystem people capital knowledge for creation
Yes.
innovation, and that is contributing to societies. It's not to make money, and therefore we don't go public. We have even donated our businesses and money to for the foundation of our university, graduate school of management. So from the beginning, my purpose was not to make money, but more to bring something into societies for innovation and creation by educating leaders and also creating industries. That
Yes.
was my whole purposes. And however, and in 20, let's say 25, 2006, I went to Davos for World Economic
Yes.
Forum.
Hmm.
I realized that Japan's presence was going down the hill.
Yeah.
And when I was at Harvard, it was Japan's number one. It was a time of bubble, and there was a
Yeah.
time of Japan bashing. And then there was a time of Japan passing, and people started saying Japan's nothing. So
Hmm.
I was so shocked to see that, and then I started to feel that my efforts were taking too much longer because
Yeah.
educating leaders will take time to get
It takes
results.
time.
Creating
Yes.
industries will take time as well, but it may be faster than educating leaders.
Yeah.
However, you have to fix the system of the country itself, which is like
Yes.
the government and also regulations and also all the
Yeah.
legal and the entity. And then I start to think about copying the model of World Economic Forum,
Mm.
multi-stakeholder gathering,
Yes.
inviting politicians, business leaders, as well as academicians, and
Yeah.
also social entrepreneurs and all the
Yeah.
athletes, everybody get together. And then we started, we call it G1. G1 stands for Globe is one, and then group of one. So it's like a
Group
G1.
as one. Yes.
So it's not G7, it's not G20, it's not G0, it's G1. It's a group of one. And also our generation one. So therefore we should get together and think about how to make Japan a better country. And 2009, we started with only about 100 members. And now, out of them, like Prime Minister Abe and Prime Minister Suga, Prime Minister
Yep.
Kishida, Prime Minister Ishiba, all the members have become Prime Minister. And most
That's
of the
impressive.
ministers are from G1 as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then billionaires as well as business leaders as well. They all come from Japan. We worked hard. We all come from G1. We
Yes.
worked hard to make Japan a better country. We even wrote a vision of Japan as we call 100 actions. It's not 100 proposal, it's 100
Yes.
actions that we have to take to make Japan a better country. During the time of let's say 2005, 2006, and now 2024, if you look around in G7 plus all the like leading countries like G7 plus Russia and China, which is like Security Council members.
Yes.
9 countries. I think Japan is most stable in terms of society, in terms of politics, and in terms of economy, and we are becoming more attractive because more inbound coming in, and we are becoming one of the example in G7 plus 2 of the leading countries. And G1 is all of us are making efforts. I think this is like a very interesting characteristic of Japanese people that not even politicians, but also other business, private sector leaders get together to think for the sake of society and then to make their time, to sacrifice their time and also money,
Yes.
and to
Do
devote
that.
their time and money to make the region and also country a better state. And part of it is like I started Kibo, you mentioned. Kibo stands for
Yes.
hope in Japanese.
Hope. Okay.
Right after Great East Japan earthquake, you saw tsunami and Fukushima, and that has inspired me to start Kibo, which is initially rescuing the devastated area. But later on, we have decided to create a social impact investment to support social entrepreneurs. And that I have decided to do. Even I've started to work for Mito, my hometown as well.
Yes. No, it's fascinating to hear you, Hori-san, talking about this G1 group, which keeps going today, actually. So you keep gathering and trying to implement some of those actions that you brought together.
Yeah, we also have an English version of G1 Global, which we hold in October in Japan. And we also have G1 Silicon Valley, we hold in Silicon Valley in April. And both of them are being conducted in English. In case of Japan, as you mentioned, because of language and also culture, we have to separate the two of them. If you try to use translation, it tend to become lost in translation.
Yes.
So we have all of them altogether 8 events per year in G1, and 2 which are held in English. 6 of them are held in Japanese. One of 6 Japanese one is we hold in Lucky Fest, which is a music festival. And so we also embrace culture and entertainment and music as well, and we try to promote as much as possible of every aspects of societies of Japan.
Yeah. Well, almost coming to an end. The last couple of questions, Hori-san. The time has been flying, but it's been again incredibly inspiring to listen to you. And maybe one day you'll become a political leader, despite what you said.
No chance. I don't have any interest to become a politician.
No, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like, the more I listen to you, the more I listen to your vision, your accomplishments, obviously, which are amazing, your own Kokozashi personal mission, the more I believe that you and your GLOBIS actually ventures, right, are embracing some of the core beliefs of what positive leadership is all about. It's something I've been really passionate about for many years in my life, professional and personal. So, if I may, would you share with us your own definition of a positive leader?
Okay. Positive leader, I'll say two things. One is about my belief, believing my own potential. That's what I have been living for and living on.
Yes.
No, nobody will think about creating business school from scratch. Not many people
No.
will, because they trying to limit their potential. And I didn't. And I started business school from scratch and built to become number one business school in Japan and in Asia. And at the same time, combining that with venture capital and also using technology for knowledge as well. So number one is believing potential is very important.
Yep.
Second is that enjoying adversity is also important. Well, like you have to challenge yourself. Like you have to take challenges. Like you have to start new adventures all the time.
Yes.
If you do make challenges, you face adversities. You face
Yes.
criticism. The results are not you had expected, or you may have your like a friends depart yourself or your colleagues depart. However, if you can enjoy adversities, because if you are living in the comfort zone, you're losing the chances to face adversities as well as grow.
Yeah.
So you have to get out of the comfort zone and challenge, and then you face adversities for sure. But if you are able to enjoy adversities, you will have a growth of yourself, and then make challenges again, challenges, adversities, and growth. And this cycle, I say, challenges, adversity, growth, are going to be important. The way to enjoy adversity is a key. Well, if you're able to enjoy adversities, like the criticism, or any kind of failures, mostly like a small failures come initially, and then success come later. And if you can enjoy adversities as a tool to improve yourself and grow, it's like you are getting some kind of chances to grow. Adversities are giving you the chances to grow, which is so much beneficial, and which is at the same time enjoyable because you are facing something that you have never encountered before, and you are seeing hurdles, obstacles that you are able to, if successful, like overcome, which will give you more confidence as well. That kind of mindset is a mindset of enjoying adversities. If you can do that, I think every challenges are going to be so much enjoyable and so much something that you want to look for to do.
Yes. I love that formula you just gave us, Hori-san. Believe in your potential and enjoy adversity. Well, that's
Sure.
that's a pretty strong set of words coming together. I love it. So, Hori-san, thanks so much for being so passionate about youth as well, because I think at the center of your life is youth. And as you foster leadership, education, venture capital, I have the same passion as well with my own small foundation in France, Live for Good, which empowers young impact social entrepreneurs who have a vital desire to have positive impact in the world. And I think this makes really the link with what follows. Being a leader starts with a vision. You've said true leaders create vision. They inspire others with that vision. And most importantly, they take the first step towards realizing it. Vision without action is just a dream. So I'd like to ask you, before we conclude with the very last question, how do you practically yourself, Hori-san, bring your own vision to life in your day-to-day life? How do you do that? How do you drive, create your energy and all of that? Tell me about the way you do it.
Okay. Your vision has to be very implementable. It has to be implemented. In order to implement your vision, you have to come up with an action plan, a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, a 1-year plan, and you have to prioritize your action by having a good strategy. and also at the same time engaging your stakeholders and your team, and then come up with a good actionable plan. And then day by day, you have to do it. And at the same time, you always have to improve your skills to be able to, have a very good leadership ability and have a very good decision-making ability and have a very good communication abilities and also having to understand about technology. So you always have to improve yourself. At the same time, so you have to be mindful about long-term vision and come up with a short-term action plan. And then all the time you have to monitor how things are going. I think that's important.
And what about the way you manage your own energy level? Because I think you mentioned energy is important as well, right? In the way you communicate your enthusiasm to others, you bring them together in G1, whatever initiative, you had to lead many other people and convince them to come together. How do you do that in terms of energy management, conviction, and so on and so forth?
Well, if you believe in what you're doing is in line with your personal mission statement, and which is like the reason why you're born and the reason why you are using your life for. If you believe in it, and at the same time, if you're enjoying it, naturally passion will come out. And naturally energy will come up because you want to do it. The same person myself, if I do something that I don't want to do, if I do something that is not in line with my vision or mission, no energy come out. So you have to do things that are in line with your vision. In order to do that, you have to think about your kokorozashi. And at the same time, you have to understand what you enjoy. And at the same time, you enjoy adversities. And if you do that, I think lots of energy will come up. Naturally.
Love it. So no, this is really going to be the last question, I can assure you. I know you've been very patient and kind. So, in my listeners, I've got listeners from across 120 countries in the world, more actually, from everywhere in the world, including youth and students as well, and also executives and tech and non-tech people. If you were to give one piece of advice to youth and students listening to this episode, Hori-san, and for youth who aspire to become managers, leaders, entrepreneurs tomorrow, what would be that piece of advice you'd like to give them?
Well, improve your skills and believe in your potential and enjoy adversities. I think those are three key things that you should keep in mind.
I think that's a wonderful summary of a really very exciting, inspiring conversation we had. And thank you so much, Hori-san, for this incredibly, again, conversation. We hope more leaders will adopt your mindset and foster a holistic approach as well to success, which includes the betterment of society. Dear listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Positive Leadership Podcast. Again, if you enjoy our discussion and found it valuable, please take a moment to subscribe and follow the podcast and leave us a rating and review. Your feedback helps us to get better and have a wonderful guest like Hori-san today. So stay connected with us for a new episode in a couple of weeks. And until next time, take care and keep leading positively. Thanks so much, Hori-san, again, for this
Thank you very much.
exciting conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.